The fire should have left bodies behind. That is the detail that has haunted America for more than 80 years. Not rumors, not ghost stories, not conspiracy theories. 5 children were inside the Sodder family home on Christmas Eve in 1945 when flames tore through the house in Fayetteville, West Virginia. By morning, the home was gone. The roof had collapsed. The bedrooms where the children slept had been consumed by fire. But when investigators searched through the ashes, they found something impossible. No human remains. No skulls. No bones. No teeth. Nothing. And from that moment forward, one terrible question refused to die. What if the children never died in the fire at all? Because the deeper the family looked into that Christmas night, the stranger everything became. A mysterious phone call. Cut phone lines. Missing ladders. Trucks that suddenly refused to start. Witnesses claiming to see the children alive after the fire. And decades later, a cryptic photograph mailed to the grieving mother with a message nobody could explain. Even today, the disappearance of the Sodder children remains one of the most disturbing unsolved mysteries in American history. And the more you examine it, the less it feels like a tragic accident. It feels planned. George and Jenny Sodder were known throughout Fayetteville as hard-working people who had built a successful life from almost nothing. George had immigrated from Italy as a teenager and eventually settled in West Virginia, where he started a trucking business. Over time, the company grew successful enough for the family to live comfortably. The Sodders had 10 children, and neighbors often described the home as lively, loud, and full of energy. But George Sodder was also outspoken. He strongly criticized Benito Mussolini and the fascist government controlling Italy during World War II. In a town with a sizable Italian immigrant population, those opinions created tension. Some people admired Mussolini. George openly attacked him. Arguments reportedly became heated, and over the years George received strange comments and threats connected to his political views. At the time, nobody imagined those arguments could become deadly. Then came Christmas Eve. December 24, 1945. The Second World War had finally ended only months earlier. Families across America were celebrating peace for the first time in years. At the Sodder house, the evening was cheerful and normal. The children played with new toys. Music filled the home. There was laughter, excitement, and the usual chaos that comes with a large family during the holidays. As the night grew late, some of the older children went to bed. 5 of the younger children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, asked if they could stay awake a little longer to play with their Christmas gifts. Jenny Sodder eventually agreed. It was the last confirmed time anyone saw them. Around 12:30 in the morning, Jenny was awakened by the ringing telephone. On the other end was a woman she did not recognize. The caller asked for someone Jenny had never heard of. In the background, Jenny could hear laughter and glasses clinking together like a party was happening nearby. Something about the call felt strange. Jenny later said the woman's tone seemed odd and unsettling. After hanging up, she noticed the lights in the house were still on and the curtains were open. She walked through the home, checked on the children, and saw some of them asleep downstairs. Then she returned to bed. About half an hour later, she woke again. This time because something crashed onto the roof. She heard a loud thud followed by a rolling sound. Again she went back to sleep. But at around 1 a.m., smoke began filling the house. Jenny opened her eyes and saw flames spreading through George's office room. The family exploded into panic. George and Jenny rushed to wake everyone they could find. Some of the children escaped through downstairs windows. George managed to break a window himself, badly injuring his arm in the process. 4 of the children made it out alive alongside their parents. But the 5 youngest children were still upstairs. The staircase had already become engulfed in flames. George tried desperately to reach them. He planned to use a ladder kept beside the house to climb to the second-floor windows. But when he ran outside, the ladder was gone. Gone. Not damaged. Not burned. Missing. George then attempted another desperate solution. He planned to move one of his work trucks beneath the window and climb onto the roof of the vehicle. But both trucks suddenly failed to start. This made no sense. The vehicles had worked perfectly the day before. George kept trying while the fire spread higher and higher into the house. Flames consumed the upper floor. The children's bedrooms disappeared behind smoke and fire. The family could only watch. Within less than an hour, the house collapsed. 5 children had vanished into the flames. Or so authorities claimed. The official investigation quickly concluded that the fire was accidental, supposedly caused by faulty wiring. But the Sodders immediately began noticing problems with that explanation. Huge problems. First, George insisted the electrical system had recently been inspected and declared safe. Even stranger, the Christmas lights inside the house reportedly stayed on while the fire was already burning. If faulty wiring caused the blaze, why was electricity still functioning during the fire? Then came another disturbing discovery. The family's phone line had been cut. Not burned. Cut. A repairman later confirmed the line had not fallen because of fire damage. Someone had physically severed it before the blaze spread. That changed everything. Because now the possibility of an accident became much harder to believe. And the strange events didn't stop there. In the days before the fire, a salesman visited the house attempting to sell life insurance. After George refused, the man allegedly became angry and warned him that his house would go up in smoke. The man also reportedly said George would be punished for criticizing Mussolini. At the time, George brushed the threat aside. After the fire, he could not stop thinking about it. Another witness later claimed to have seen a man stealing a block and tackle pulley from the Sodder property around the time of the fire. This may explain why the latter disappeared that night. Then investigators learned about the loud noise Jenny heard on the roof shortly before the fire began. Months later, a strange object was reportedly found in the yard. Some believed it resembled a military incendiary device, sometimes nicknamed a pineapple bomb. Suddenly the possibility emerged that the fire itself may have been intentionally started. And if that was true, then another horrifying question followed. Were the children actually inside the house when it burned? The official search through the ashes only deepened the mystery. Authorities claimed the fire had been so hot that the children's bodies were completely destroyed. But experts strongly challenged that explanation. Human bones do not simply vanish in ordinary house fires. Even in crematoriums operating at extremely high temperatures, bones usually remain afterward and must be mechanically crushed into ash. Yet at the Sodder house, investigators found virtually nothing connected to the missing children. No skeletons. No organs. No teeth. Nothing that proved 5 human beings died there. George and Jenny refused to accept the official conclusion. And then the sightings began. One woman working at a hotel in Charleston claimed she saw 4 of the missing children shortly after the fire. According to her, they arrived with 2 adults of Italian appearance. She remembered the children seemed frightened and carefully watched. Another witness running a tourist stop between West Virginia and South Carolina claimed she served breakfast to children matching the Sodders' descriptions. The group traveled with adults who refused to let the children answer questions. A bus driver also came forward with an especially disturbing statement. He claimed that on the night of the fire he saw people throwing balls of fire at the Sodder home. If true, that lined up eerily with the loud crashing sound Jenny heard on the roof before the blaze erupted. But none of these reports ever produced concrete answers. Years passed. The mystery only grew larger. The Sodders became obsessed with finding their children. George printed thousands of flyers. The family chased leads across multiple states. Every rumor mattered. Every strange sighting reopened hope. Then in 1949, investigators conducted another excavation at the fire site. This time they discovered small bone fragments. At first, it sounded like the case was finally solved. But forensic analysis created even more confusion. Experts reportedly concluded the fragments belonged to an adult between 18 and 22 years old, not to the missing children. Some researchers later argued the bones may not even have come from the fire at all. Questions continued piling up. Why were there no verified remains from the children? Why had the phone lines been cut? Why did both trucks fail simultaneously? Who removed the ladder? Why were witnesses reporting sightings afterward? And why did authorities seem so eager to close the case? As years turned into decades, the mystery transformed into something almost legendary across America. But perhaps the strangest moment of all arrived in 1967, 22 years after the fire. Jenny Sodder opened her mailbox and found an envelope postmarked from Kentucky. Inside was a photograph of a young man. The moment she saw his face, her heart nearly stopped. He looked astonishingly similar to Louis Sodder, one of the missing boys. The photograph carried a cryptic handwritten note. Louis Sodder. I love brother Frankie. Illo boys. A 90132 or 35. Nobody fully understood what the message meant. But to Jenny it felt like proof. Proof that at least one child had survived. The family hired a private investigator and attempted to trace the photograph's origins, but the trail went cold almost immediately. The sender was never identified. Still, Jenny believed until her dying day that her children had been taken. Not killed. Taken. Theories about what happened that night exploded over the years. One of the most popular involved the Italian mafia. Because of George Sodder's anti-Mussolini opinions, some believe powerful individuals targeted the family as revenge. According to this theory, the fire was staged to cover a kidnapping operation. The children may have been abducted and raised elsewhere under different identities. It sounds extreme. But supporters of the theory point to the threats George received before the fire, the witnesses describing Italian-looking adults with the children, and the strange behavior surrounding the investigation. Others believe the kidnapping was never meant to become so public. According to this theory, criminals intended only to abduct the children. The fire either got out of control accidentally or was started deliberately afterward to destroy evidence. This could explain the sabotage. The cut phone lines prevented emergency calls. The missing ladder and disabled trucks trapped the parents outside. Everything may have been designed to stop George and Jenny from reaching the second floor in time. Then there is the trafficking theory. Some researchers suspect the children were abducted and sold through organized criminal networks. The sightings of the children traveling with unfamiliar adults have fueled this idea for decades. Supporters also point to the fact that no bodies were ever recovered. But skeptics argue that the simpler explanation remains the correct one. They believe the children truly died in the fire and that investigators simply failed to recover the remains properly. Remember, this happened in 1945. Modern forensic science barely existed. Fire scene investigations were primitive compared to today. It is possible evidence was overlooked, contaminated, or destroyed during cleanup. Yet even this explanation leaves major holes. Because experienced fire experts still insist total destruction of 5 bodies inside a standard house fire is extraordinarily unlikely. And then there is perhaps the most chilling detail of all. The Sodders themselves never truly stopped believing. Years after the fire, George and Jenny placed a massive billboard along Route 16 featuring the faces of their missing children. It offered a reward for information and begged the public for answers. Travelers passing through Fayetteville saw those faces for decades. 5 smiling children frozen in time, waiting to come home. Jenny wore black clothing for the rest of her life as a symbol of mourning. But unlike most grieving mothers, she had no graves to visit. No funeral closure. No certainty. Only questions. George died in 1969 still searching for answers. Jenny continued investigating until her health declined in old age. Even then, surviving family members kept the case alive. And the truth is, many people who study the Sodder case today walk away with the same disturbing feeling. Too many things went wrong at exactly the same time. A random fire might explain one strange detail. Maybe 2. But all of them together? The cut phone line. The missing ladder. The trucks refusing to start. The threats before the fire. The sightings afterward. The mysterious photograph. At some point, coincidence begins feeling impossible. Even modern investigators remain divided. Some researchers believe the children almost certainly died in the fire and that grief pushed the family toward impossible hopes. Others are convinced a cover-up occurred. And a few believe the truth may be even darker than anyone realizes. Because if the children survived, then someone spent decades hiding what happened to them. Imagine being George and Jenny Sodder. Imagine hearing your children screaming upstairs while flames consumed the house. Imagine fighting desperately to save them only to discover every possible rescue method has mysteriously failed. Then imagine authorities telling you their bodies burned so completely that nothing remained. Not one bone. Not one tooth. Would you believe it? Or would you spend the rest of your life wondering whether your children were still out there somewhere, growing older, changing names, living lives they could no longer remember? That question tortured the Sodder family for generations. And maybe the cruelest part of the mystery is this: there were moments when hope seemed painfully close. A witness report, a photograph, a rumor from another state. Each one reopened the wound all over again. Each one whispered the same terrifying possibility. What if the children survived that night? What if they spent years believing their family had abandoned them? Or worse, what if they were told their family died in the fire? Even today, amateur investigators continue digging through records, photographs, and witness statements searching for answers. Some researchers have attempted facial comparisons using the 1967 photograph. Others study old mafia connections in West Virginia communities. A few believe DNA technology may eventually solve the mystery if living descendants are ever identified. But time is running out. Most of the original witnesses are gone. Many records have disappeared. And memories fade with every passing decade. Still, the Sodder case refuses to disappear. Because it taps into something deeply human. The fear of losing people without answers. The horror of uncertainty. Most tragedies eventually settle into facts. There are victims, explanations, evidence, endings. The Sodder children never received that ending. Their story remains suspended between life and death. Somewhere between accident and conspiracy. Between history and legend. And maybe that is why this case still fascinates people nearly a century later. Because deep down we all feel the same thing when we hear it. 5 children vanished on Christmas Eve. And somehow, despite a house burning to the ground, they left almost no trace behind. That should not happen. Which means one of two possibilities must be true. Either investigators failed in one of the most extraordinary ways imaginable, or 5 children walked away from that fire into a darkness nobody has ever fully uncovered. And until someone finally proves what happened that night in Fayetteville, West Virginia, the Sodder children will remain exactly where they have been since 1945. Lost between ashes and memory. Hidden inside one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. If you want to uncover the unsolved mysteries and chilling crime story, subscribe to my channel and never miss a shocking case.